Hey folks, Joseph Sabara here, and it's been a while since I've done my last movie review, which was the 2015 stop motion and CGI animated feature that's based on the book called The Little Prince, which also had the 1974 version that I've yet to check out. I know I've seen that movie a long time ago, and I still need to find the DVD, but otherwise I'll try to see if I can find something so maybe I'll be able to watch it. Which brings me a shock to me because on account of being so busy a lot lately, having to deal with a lot of stuff because I had to sign up for a class, I just found out that just recently a wonderful comic actor as well as writer and director Gene Wilder has passed away at the age of 83 due to Alzheimer's disease. Yeah, it really shocked me right there because he's such a fun, talented actor who has done a lot of great films, a lot of funny comedies such as the Mel Brooks films like The Producers, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein. Yeah, those were good films. And then he also did films with Richard Pryor, definitely a comic pair, when they did films like Silver Streak, Stir Crazy, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and, to be fair, Another You, which was one of their weakest, because it doesn't hold a candle to the first three films, which See No Evil, Hear No Evil being my favorite of them all, as well as Silver Streak and Stir Crazy, of course. He also started writing and directing films, especially when he teamed up with his wife, Gilda Radner, who's a former SNL cast member. When he did films like The Woman in Red and Haunted Honeymoon. Yeah, those were good films, in my opinion. And he has done a lot of work over the years before he retired and started to work on other books and everything. Yeah, and he has a wife too, another wife named Karen, and he has kids, and there you go. So, yeah, he was one legendary actor that sadly he will be missed. But the one film that he actually did the most that became everyone's favorite, and it's based on the book by Ron Dow, called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, no doubt about it, the main reason why Gene Wilder got the role was because he wanted to do that one scene, he didn't know at the time, of course, was when he wanted to do a scene where he comes out of the chocolate factory, he's walking around very crippled, he had a cane and he was limping, and then suddenly he fell onto the ground, did a somersault, and got up and it pleased everybody because in his reaction he says that he didn't know if they were even lying or not when they saw that scene. Yeah. But this wasn't Ron Dell's first choice when he wanted an actor to do the movie version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, the first one to go. Because this is another reason why he totally disowned this movie. Ron Dell's real choice was a comedian, Spike Mulligan, which, he was a British comedian who's been in several movies and other stuff, and he thought this would be the perfect choice for him to play Willy Wonka because he seemed like he has the style. Not only that, but even Peter Sellers actually begged for the role as well, because at the time he was doing the Pink Panther movies. But I know there were other actors too, especially the Monty Python cast. Wow, hard to believe. But eventually they went to Gene Wilder because of that particular scene alone. And that was his idea. If it wasn't for that scene alone, he wouldn't do it. And also, Ron Dell disliked the film because the fact that it was inferior to his book. You know, they had to do major changes with the story. While some of them remained the same, the rest of them have been ultimately changed. Because, well, you know, Hollywood doesn't translate very well with books. And there are times when they tend to improve better. So there you go. So that's why. But that is until we had the 2005 version, which Tim Burton did, and Johnny Depp took over the role for Willy Wonka, which I know people had mixed feelings about this movie, and people felt the same way. But at least, for the most part, it did focus on the story. Because we know that Wandell wanted to focus on Charlie instead of just emphasizing on Willy Wonka, because it's really his story. You know, Charlie Barkett. I mean, the idea about having to live with a poor family. He has a mother who's a widower, and he has grandparents living together in one house. They were very poor, so they couldn't be able to find their lifelong dream until one day, and he was trying to find his best to find a golden ticket to enter the chocolate factory, but he has to bring one person, and that is Grandpa Joe. And that was a chance of his lifetime. So this is the movie about what was it like if you get one golden ticket that you find on a Wonka bar, you know, lots of candy around, and suddenly you get a chance of a lifetime by entering your pure imagination. Now, the film was originally released by Paramount Pictures, was co-produced with producer David L. Roper, who owns Roper Pictures and the Roper Company, which at the time was owned by the Quaker Oats Company. That's a factory from Chicago. Yeah, best known for making all these chocolate chewy bars and old cereals. Yeah, as well as Quaker Oats oatmeal. Well, they had to purchase the rights to this movie as well as the book, because they were also preparing to create their own Wonka bar, yeah, as opposed to the film. And the film was a modest success, earning only $4 million out of its $3 million budget. And apparently, Paramount lost their rights in 1977 due to the fact that Roper Pictures was being owned by Warner Communications, yeah, which owns Warner Brothers, and they took over the company from the Quaker Oats Company, and now Warner Brothers had purchased the rights to the film, so that explains it. Which is pretty rare too, because just recently I found a 16mm print of the film that was sold on eBay. It's already been sold already. That actually had the Paramount logo intact. So that's really something. Because I would imagine having to see the film with the Paramount logo intact. But instead it's the Warner Brothers logo. And they've been plastering the logo ever since. So there you go. They did have a re-release back in 1996, which actually earned $21 million. So yes, it was a huge hit. Highest grossing movie ever. Now, when I first saw the movie at the age of 9, I didn't like it at first, because it's kind of hard to actually handle a film like this if you had to see children in danger. And while they are spoiled brats, no doubt about it, I didn't like to see the treatment of them, even if they deserved it. It's kind of hard. That's how I felt when I saw this movie. And the fact that Willy Wonka refused to help him, it just kind of ruins it. It really did. After seeing it the second time around, because I gave it a second chance, I really enjoyed it. It got better to me as it went along, and it continues to go on as years follow before the 2005 version came along. So all it matters though is it was fine. I'll live with it. So there you go. But then when the 2005 version came along, that's when people started feeling very mixed on the film. But then at the same time, they did enjoy it because it did focus on the story. Yeah, for those who have read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory will know that's what it's supposed to be about. And there you go. But then they felt pretty mixed, mostly because of Johnny Depp's performance. I mean, the way he was dressed and the way he looked in the film. Yeah. But when I first saw the film, I had mixed feelings myself. But seeing that this is directed by Tim Burton, and the fact that he wanted Johnny Depp in the film, because after all, you know, they did work together as a team, you know, since Edward Scissorhands. You know, I gave it a chance. I would watch it just as long as it focuses on the source material. Then I really will enjoy it the most. Well, at first I did enjoy Johnny Depp's performance, but then having to see this movie back to back with the original, all I can say is I can't lie. Gene Wilder was the best Willy Wonka we ever had. So there's no doubt about it. But the whole backlash between the 2005 version just really bothers me. And I still enjoyed Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, both the movie and the book, as well as the original. I don't like the fact that now they're just praising more on the 1971 version rather than this one. Because now I feel like, great, now we're going to go for that. But, you know, there are plenty of worse remakes and reboots out there that, you know, at least this one focuses on the source material that Ron Dow would have loved. So that's how I felt. But either way, I love the 1971 version, as well as the 2005 version, and of course the book. But that's all that matters because, you know, Ron Dow, even if he dislikes this movie, and even if Gene Wilder dislikes the 2005 version, then I respect their opinions. You know, to each their own. There you go. But I still enjoy them, so no matter what. So anyway, let's get to the film. It stars Gene Wilder, Jack Albertson, Peter Ostrom, Roy Kinnear, Denise Nicholson, Leonard Stone, Julie Dawn Cole, Dodo Denny, Paris Femin, Ursula Rell, Michael Baldner, Diane Sawyer, Audrey Woods, Gunter Messner, and Peter Capel. Yep, it's written by Ron Dow, along with screenwriter David Seltzer, who's uncredited by the way, and it's directed by Mel Stewart. The movie begins set in a modern European town where the kids who came after school went to a candy shop where they meet a candy man, you know, even singing the song, "The Candy Man Can, the Candy Man Can." Yeah, because that's a song. Which we meet a young boy named Charlie Bucket, who's played by Peter Ostrom, you know, who just stare at the candy man while singing the song. And suddenly he winds up working with a newsagent from a local newspaper where he gets his weekly paid so that way he can send his family, who's very poor by the way, you know, he has a widower mother and 4 grandparents who are sleeping, includes Grandpa Joe, who's played by Jack Albertson, a loaf of bread and any other kind of food. But then on his way home, he passes by a chocolate factory that's owned by Willy Wonka himself, played by Gene Wilder. Suddenly, he meets a mysterious man who told Charlie, out of the first poem from The Fairies, that's written by William Islandham, nobody ever goes in and nobody ever goes out. Yeah. He didn't know what it meant at the time, but then he explains to Grandpa Joe about the mysterious man that he met, saying that Wonka had locked the factory because of his arch rival named Arthur Slugworth, who's played by Gunter Mesner. And he tells them that he hires some spies to actually steal Wonka's secret chocolate and candy recipes. So that way he'd be able to launch his competition between his factory. But Wonka had disappeared without a trace until 3 years later when he came back and begins to sell more candy, which apparently his factory remains a mystery to everybody. All of a sudden, Wonka has announced to the entire world that he has hidden 5 golden tickets, that's right, inside each and every one of the Wonka bars. Anybody who finds those 5 golden tickets, at this rate just one, will be able to have a chance of a lifetime to enter a tour inside Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Which this will bring everybody a surprise. So far only 4 people around the world had gotten the golden ticket. One is a German boy who's a fat kid named Augustus Goop. The other one is a spoiled rich brat who's British named Bouka Salt. Next is an American girl who loves to chew bubblegum. She's really very good at that, named Violet Beauregard. And next is an American boy who's obsessed with television. Yeah, I can relate to that because, I love to watch TV at that age. Go figure. But hey, I'm always into movies and all this other stuff, so at least now you know. But he loves to watch Western movies because he always dresses up as a cowboy named Mike TV. That's right, that's his last name, TV. So each of the winners are about to go to the chocolate factory, but there's only one ticket left, and it was given to a millionaire in Paraguay, South America. Unfortunately, it turns out that the golden ticket was a fake, even though it was the last of all the golden tickets they ever had, and it was a shame for Charlie and his family not to go. But then the next day, Charlie actually found some money from the gutter and went to a candy shop, just to get some candy, such as the new Wonka bar that they came up for a specialty. And then he decided to buy another Wonka bar, but this time for Grandpa Joe. So at least he had enough money left. It turns out, by surprise, that he actually found the last and real golden ticket inside the chocolate bar. So he was like, wow. After all this time, it's finally found. And he was so lucky too. And by the way, the golden ticket actually says, and yes, I'm going to read it. I know for those who've seen the movie, we already know. The golden ticket reads, Wonka's golden ticket. Greetings to you, the lucky finder of this golden ticket, from Mr. Willy Wonka. Present this ticket at the factory gates at 10 o'clock in the morning of the first day of October, which is October 1st. And do not be late. You may bring only one member of your family, and only one, but no one else. In your wildest dreams, you cannot imagine the marvelous surprises that awaits you. That's all it says on the golden ticket. On October 1st, Charlie Bucket and Grandpa Joe had stayed in line along with a crowd of people, including the 4 winners who brought in their family along. Yeah, only one person, by the way, to enter Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. And this is where we get the scene where Willy Wonka appears as a crippled. He was limping, and then suddenly He fell to the ground without the cane, did a somersault, and what do you know? He jumps up and he greeted everybody throughout the entire crowd. So, because the entire crowd were very shocked the way they show his appearance. So there you go. So now, Willy Wonka had greeted 5 winners inside his chocolate factory to give them a tour inside. But he has his own set of rules for everybody who enters inside the chocolate factory. Was not to touch anything or do anything, but as long as you be able to not get into bigger trouble. And that's what's going to lead to that in the movie. So they went up inside the chocolate factory, and which basically we get to meet the Oompa Loompas. You know, just after they went inside the room, which is rather small, but they went inside an actual beautiful and wonderful room filled with yeah, it was like a dream come true. It's like a wonderland, if you ask me. Yeah, a wonderland for candy everywhere. So you get to eat all the candies. It's all made, you know, with all the flowers, the grass, and the fields everywhere. It's like, wow, you wouldn't believe it. And that's where we get to hear the song "Pure Imagination." Yeah, beautifully sung by Wilder himself. So it's really cool too. And you just never forget that moment. But that is until they went straight to the Chocolate River, which suddenly, this is where the trouble begins, when Augustus Goop suddenly fell into the river, and that's when he winds up into the tunnel, actually shoots up all the way up on the top. So, wow. Also, I forgot to mention that because they went inside the place, they also got the everlasting Godstopper, because they're actually working on the latest creation that Wonka was coming up with. So each and every one of them had got the everlasting Godstopper, so it's cool. Of course, the Oompa Loompas, you know, once you see those little tiny men, you know, they always come up with their own riddles, and they actually sing a puzzle, so in case, like, whenever, you know, 4 people winds up getting in trouble, that's when they start singing the song, Oompa Loompa Doopy-Dee-Doo, I got a puzzle just for you. And they explain it. And boy, I gotta say, even for the Oompa Loompas, they kind of creeped me out when I was a kid. You wouldn't believe it. Yeah, and you know what the Oompa Loompas would look like. You know, tiny little man with green hair and orange face. There you go. And they also wear white uniforms. So anyway, Wonka decided to bring the entire gang inside the psychedelic boat ride. And yes, it's one of the most creepiest rides you've ever seen. And yeah, it's like... You started seeing a lot of horrific images of beetles and flies, and they even show a shot of Slugworth and all the rest. It's like, imagine being inside a nightmare. And that scene could really creep people out. So once they entered, they wound up going inside all the other brief tours of how they started making some gum and all this other stuff, and then, of course, he's, you know, Willy Wonka's always coming up with these sarcastic remarks, and he started using, you know, poetry and all this other languages that's coming from many favorite authors out there, you know, like William Shakespeare and all the rest. This time, Violet gets in trouble by actually trying out the gum, which it wasn't fully tested yet. And suddenly she turns into Violet. You're turning violet, Violet. Okay. Yeah, that's where she starts to become more like a blueberry as she turns her face Violet. And so, of course, they had to suck the juice out with the Oompa Loompas taking her in. So now we get to the factory where they went inside to make all these fizzy lifting drinks. Yeah, that's where Charlie and Grandpa Joe had gotten into trouble. Well, at least they were safe. They were about to try out the drink, and suddenly they started flowing up in the air, all the way on top, where they were almost close enough to actually get killed from the fan. So unfortunately, the only way to do that was to burp, and they went all the way down. So there you go. So they went back inside, and this time they went into the factory where they had all the golden eggs, which apparently they tell you the difference between a good egg and a bad egg. So they have a machine called the Egginator, where they tell you if one egg is good, then they'll send to the good machine, but if the one egg is bad, it goes all the way down, and then there you go. Well, as spoiled as Baruka is, she basically wants to steal all the golden eggs, and she wants everything. Yeah, because after all, she is very spoiled. And she fell into the chute, where she's now simply a bad egg. Yeah, same goes with her father. There you go. The golden egg swim, of course, is basically chocolate eggs, so just so you know. So almost at the end of the tour, they went inside the Wonka vision, only to find out that Mike Tullavy had wound up teleporting himself, because apparently this was a room where they had to teleport all the messages that they put inside the monitors, so that way they'd be able to put those letters inside the chocolate bars or any other kind. Anyway, Mike suddenly got into the machine, and that's where he becomes rather tiny. And he's saying that he's on TV. So yeah, there you go. So now at the end of the tour, only Charlie and Grandpa Joe remain, but Wonka suddenly dismissed them, and this is where we get the final act, which that's what causes Rondell to be really upset about. Not only because they put in the fizzy lifting drink scene, but it's also because Wonka suddenly found out the suspicion between them, so they thought, well, they really got in trouble this time, and they thought because out of all of this, even though they didn't do anything much other than just one accident, they lost. But unfortunately, Charlie suddenly gives Wonka the God Stopper, and then finally he begins to reveal that he passed. He finally passed. And then he found out the true secret behind what's going on here. And now we begin to find out that once they went inside the glass elevator, which is of course the Wonkavator, flies out of the factory, and suddenly he gets to see his house and the entire town up in the sky. And this is where Wonka suddenly reveals the secret behind the factory, that he tells Charlie that he's now going to own his chocolate factory from him. And he gets to have his family live together. So now it's all happily ever after. And boy, when I saw that scene after all these years, it made me cry. I actually did cry just recently when I finally watched it after all these years, and having watched it many times. I mean, now after Wilder's death, it just seems like, wow. That's just one sad moment that you never thought it would have. This was a good film. It really is. I mean, I may have had a love and hate relationship with the film, but as far as the years have went, I really did enjoy it, and it shows. I mean, granted, the effects may have been dated for its time. I mean, after all, this movie was made in 1971, so special effects were quite different back then. And I know the art design was spectacular. It's all wonderful the way they shot this and the way they created the factory and everything that they went into. It's like you're living in Wonderland. That's what it feels like. I mean, I think it has a good comparison with Alice in Wonderland in the mix, yet alone the Wizard of Oz and all the other fantasy adventure movies. But this is a fantasy, and it works. Now, I gotta admit, the music was pretty corny. The music, of course, came from writers Leslie Bocuse and Anthony Newley, the actor who was in the film Dr. Dolittle, the original film, before he went on to waste his career in the Garbageville Kids movie. Yeah, got it. I do not want to forget that piece of garbage. The less vain to say, the better. Also, the fact that he was originally going to be chosen to play a role in the film, but of course that never happened, so there you go. But the idea of this movie was that director Mel Stewart, who did this movie, had offered to make this movie mostly because of his 10-year-old daughter, because she actually read the book. She loved it so much that he thought, why not do a film adaptation? And there you go. I mean, despite the fact that I had a lot of problems having to work with the script, and the fact that they had to do some rewrites from another screenwriter, David Seltzler. And that's what causes Dell to feel very angry about this. And that's why he completely disowned the movie. But anyway. It has a great cast right there. Besides Gene Wilder, I thought Jack Albertson did a great job playing Grandpa Joe. In fact, he's a very good actor. That he went on to do the TV series Chico and the Man. Yeah, so so he basically plays a whole different character from Grandpa Joe. Well, he's been doing a lot of movies during his time before he was no longer with us. But there you go. Peter Ostrom is definitely the real star of Charlie. Even though he's a blonde, as he was written, he was definitely the perfect choice to play him at the time. And he was amazing. You could tell how you feel about the character, because having to live with a poor family, and he almost felt like he had nothing until he finally gets something that became a chance of a lifetime, and it really shows too. And everybody else was good too. I mean, it's a great cast, even though they were bratty. The kids were, fortunately. But it does kind of bother me when I was very young, because the way the treatment is. But I got used to it over the years, and I can understand now, because it was also in the book too. I mean, they did have bratty kids in there, and all the stuff that's in the movie. But I think the film could have been a lot better if it had became the true focus of Ron Dell's vision of the story. So then you have a better film. But still, I give this movie a pass. Some great cinematography too, by Arthur Betson, because he actually had a lot of great close-up shots and all these other good scenes here. Like when he actually started using some split screens whenever they put in the lyrics of the Oompa Loompas. So beautifully designed of the characters themselves. So they really show, even though they do creep me out a bit. And of course the design of the boat ride, that's very psychedelic. It's scary. And of course the opening credits where they show a close-up of all the chocolates that's being made inside the factory. Like you started seeing the chocolate mixer, the cocoa beans flowing all the way down, and you see a lot of those chocolate kisses that you saw, kind of like the Hershey's Kisses, and the chocolate bars and all of that. It's like, oh man, you feel like you just want to have some chocolate. Yeah, because I love chocolate too. I mean, I always love eating chocolate. That's the entire obsession of that. Because, you know, chocolate's good. Just don't eat too much of it because you never know what's going to happen next. Whatever. But it's a fun movie. Highly recommended. Same goes with the 2005 version and the book, because they're all good, no matter what. I mean, despite of its problems that the 1971 film really had. But I sure owe it all to Gene Wilder, because he definitely brought in his image to the character, because after all, the Willy Wonka company, which is a candy company, actually brought in his image, as opposed to the image that that was in the book. So there you go. Given that the light, wettish, brownish hair that he has, with a violet hat, coat, suit, and he has a cane. I mean, wow. That is Willy Wonka right there. Yeah. Well, but still, highly recommend the movie. Get the film on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, of course, or any other format, or even watch it on TV, or if they're playing it everywhere. So, if you get a chance, watch it. But after all, I'm definitely going to miss Gene Wilder, because he was a great actor, and he'll be sadly missed. So anyway, I give Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory 4 stars. I'm Joseph A. Sabora, and I'll see you later. Bye.